It's time for the podcast. Yeah, the podcast is starting.
What's a podcast?
It's all gonna be alright in the end. It's gonna be alright. And if you've got some worries, my dear little friends, please rest your busy minds, because it's finally time for stories from now and then.
Hey kids, welcome back to Stories from Now and Then. Captain Blunderface here, and I still don't know why I'm called that. Back in the old library. Deprecatus and I are stacking books to the ceiling to see who can make the tallest tower. What's that? No, I'm not jumping off the tall one. No, you can do that with your 9 lives. No, my name is Captain Blunderface. That's not going to go well. Anyway, before we climb down from here in today's fairy tale, we have a shout-out. Today's shout-out goes to Calla in Victoria, British Columbia, whose favorite princess is Rapunzel, and her favorite animal is a unicorn. Calla, this story's for you. Oh, looks like we just got a message from today's sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Guest Getter. They help restaurants bring in guests and keep them coming back, which is great because I personally forget where I like to eat unless someone reminds me. Guest Getter helps restaurants do that, but on purpose. Check them out at guestgetter.co. And Nicola, Calla will be very happy to hear that today's story is the story of Rapunzel. Please take it away.
Now, you've probably heard this next story before. It's a very old story, and it's been told in lots of ways. Stories change over time, you see. But this version of the story is from many years ago, when it was first being told. This is the story of Rapunzel. There were once a man and a woman who desperately longed to have a child. They had waited many years, but they still hoped they would be blessed with a baby. They lived in a little house with a window at the back, from which a splendid garden could be seen, which was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to an enchantress who had great power and was feared by all the world. Now one day, the woman was looking down into the garden when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful rampion, which is a delicious type of lettuce, and also called Rapunzel. It looked so fresh and green that she longed for it and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every day, but because she could not get any, she quite pined away and looked pale and miserable. Her husband was worried to see her this way and asked, "What is the matter, dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't get some of the rampion which is in that garden to eat, I shall never eat anything again." The man who loved her thought, "Well, rather than let my wife starve to death, I must bring her some of this rampion, whatever it costs." In the twilight of evening, he clambered down over the wall into the garden of the enchantress, quickly snatched up a handful of rampion and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it and ate it all up. She liked it so much, so very much, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. If her poor husband was to have any rest, he must, once more, descend into the garden. In the gloom of evening, therefore, he let himself down again, but when he had clambered down the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the enchantress standing before him. "How dare you," said she with angry look, "descend into my garden and steal my rampion like a thief? You shall suffer for it." "Please, have mercy," he said. "I had no other choice. My wife saw your rampion from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not got some to eat." Then The enchantress softened her anger and said to him, "If this is so, I will allow you to take as much rampion as you want. But there is one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. It shall be well treated, and I will care for it like a mother." The man was so afraid that he agreed to everything. Not long after that, the woman found she was to have a baby. And when the little one came to them, the enchantress appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took it away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most lovely child beneath the sun. When she was 12 years old, the enchantress shut her into a tower which lay deep in a forest and had neither stairs nor door, but just at the top was a little window. When the enchantress wanted to go in, she stood directly beneath this window and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the enchantress, she unfastened her braided tresses, wound them round one of the hooks of the window above, and then the hair fell 20 yards down, and the enchantress climbed up by it. A number of years went by, and it came to pass that the king's son was riding through the forest and went by the tower. Then he heard a song which was so charming that he stood still and listened. This was Rapunzel, who would sing songs to pass the time while she was alone. The king's son wanted to climb up and meet her and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but he could not stop thinking of the lovely singing, so every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. One day, when he was listening by a tree, he saw that an enchantress came to the tower, and he heard how she cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel let down the braids of her hair, and the enchantress climbed up to her. "If that is the ladder by which one reaches the tower, I will take my chance," said the prince. And the next day he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Immediately the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first, Rapunzel was terribly frightened when she saw the prince was not the enchantress. But the king's son began to speak to her so kindly and told her that he had fallen in love with her when he heard her singing. Then Rapunzel was not afraid, and when he asked her if she would take him for a husband, she thought to herself, "He is a good man and kinder than the old enchantress," and she said yes and put her hand in his. She said, "I will willingly go away with you, but I do not know how to get down. If you bring a length of rope every time that you come, I will make a ladder with it, and when that is ready, I will climb down, and we can ride off on your horse." They agreed that he would visit her every evening, for the old woman came to see her in the daytime. The enchantress knew nothing about any of this, until one day Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me, mother, how are you so much heavier for me to pull up the tower than the young prince? He comes up in just a moment." "Ah, you wicked child," cried the enchantress. "What do I hear you say? I thought I had cut you off from all the world, and yet you have deceived me." In her anger, she grabbed Rapunzel's beautiful hair, wrapped it twice around her left hand, seized a pair of scissors with the right, and snip, snip, they were cut off, and the lovely braids lay on the ground. And she was so nasty that she took poor Rapunzel far into a desert and left her there. On that very same day that she cast out Rapunzel, the enchantress fastened the braids of hair which she had cut off to the hook of the window. And when the king's son came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let the hair down. The king's son climbed up, but he did not find his dearest Rapunzel above, but the enchantress, who gazed at him with wicked and venomous looks. "Aha!" she cried mockingly. "You would fetch your dearest, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in the nest. The cat has got it and will scratch out your eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to you. You will never see her again." The king's son was heartbroken and fell back down from the tower window. He survived, but landed in a thicket of thorny bushes, which pierced his eyes. Then he wandered quite blind around the forest, ate nothing but roots and berries, and did nothing but lament and weep over the loss of his dear love. Thus this prince roamed about in misery for some years, calling out for his dear Rapunzel, but couldn't find her. But as the seasons came and went, he eventually came to the same desert where Rapunzel had been abandoned. He heard a voice singing in the distance, and it seemed so familiar to him that he went towards it. And as he approached, Rapunzel looked up from where she was and ran to hug him, and they both wept. 2 of her tears fell on his eyes, and they grew clear again, and he could see with them as before. They returned to his kingdom, where there was much rejoicing, and they lived for a long time, happy and content. It's a really special version of the story. Wasn't it lovely how the prince and Rapunzel fell in love with each other, not because of how handsome or how beautiful they found each other, but the prince first heard her sweet singing, and then Rapunzel fell in love with his kindness and devotion, some of the most lovable traits a person can have.
Thanks, Nicola. That whole time I was braiding different bookmarks together, and I think the braid is as tall as I am now. Remember, if you want a shout out, get your parents to DM us on Instagram at Stories From Now and Then. Stories From Now and Then is narrated by Nicola Ward. Music by Captain Blunderface. Captain Blunderface is played by Evan Wiebe. Take care, and we'll see you next time on
Stories from now and then.